Today I'm going to be replacing a track rod end on my newly acquired Volvo V70. So this is how I diagnosed that I needed a track rod end. I basically placed one hand there and one hand there, and I gave the whole wheel a good wiggle, and I did detect some play. I was looking at the steering wheel, which is a bit of a stretch, but it is possible, and I just detected a bit too much play. So then I put my hand in and felt the track rod end, and I'm pretty sure it's the outer track rod end, but I'm going to replace it just to see. So now we've got the wheel removed, we'll give the track rod end a spray of penetrating fluid just to ensure everything's nice and free and easy. And before we go any further, we'll just do a double check on the new part. I'm going to slacken off the retaining nut a couple of flats. That'll quite easy actually. I will go into the torque settings a bit later on in the video. And now we're going to try just using the impact gun just to whip that nut off. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but if it fails, there is a, in this one it's a hex, in that one it's an e-torx, so we can just keep that still whilst removing the nut. Well, that made easy work of it. So we now want to break it loose, so I'll just put a bit of penetrating fluid in there, and there's a few ways of doing it. You can either use a pickle fork and get in there, or two sharp taps with a hammer, one either side of that, which we're not going to get access for, so that ain't going to work. I'm going to use a ball joint splitter. So this is the ball joint splitter I have, and I always seem to have to hammer the base in like so, but as we wind that nut there, it should just push down on the bolt and then release the track rod end. I'm not going to place that without some love taps with a hammer. So I got that tool in and I just tend to hit it there, offering it little sympathy, and then we'll tighten this up and hopefully watch it give. So using one of my latest Temu purchases, and the track rod end is now off, and I applied a bit of pressure, and what I did, rather than just continuously applying pressure, I just hit that with a lump hammer and sent some shock waves into it, and the whole thing just jumped off and it's now free. So we get to the good part, and now we can compare our parts, new versus old, and these look about the same deal. If the length of one is shorter or longer than the other, you have to just measure each component and make some adjustments. So we want to get this exactly as it was before, but I will be doing a little alignment check later on in the video. So now we're going to remove this old track rod end, and we're going to count the turns. We do have the nut as a reference, but it's always handy to know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 29, 20, and then we wind the new one on in a similar fashion, just taking care that none of this turns or we won't know where we are with the tracking. So that's the new unit fitted, and the old one I think was due replacement. As you can see here, I can move it far too easy with my fingers, so I think I correctly diagnosed that one. Now this one's going to be a lot harder to move, and it's not going to want to go in. So we can just grab the nut with an adjustable spanner and just tweak that to where we think it'll align. So we've got the new track rod end fitted, and we'll just run that nut down. So if everything's turning round while you're doing it, just you could get a little jack and just put a little force up there, protect this with a block of wood or something. Or the other alternative is to use an Allen key in this case to keep the innard still whilst tightening the lock nut. So the torque of these nuts is quite high. That's 90 Newton metre, and that's 80 Newton metre, but you would need a crow's foot spanner to do that. But I dare say a lot of people will just go, yeah, that's tight enough. So with the wheel refitted, it feels a lot more positive when we do the two-handed side-to-side wiggle test. Incidentally, if you want to check the wheel bearings of a car, digressing slightly, it is actually top to bottom. So it's track rod end, side to side, wheel bearings, top to bottom, and that's what I was taught. So what we're going to do, we're just going to move the car backwards, then forwards, back up the ramps, just to realign everything. So with the steering wheel dead straight, so what I've done is I've placed some string around the full vehicle, and in relation to the rear wheels I now have the front wheels. So the good news is I should really use builder's twine, but I haven't got any that fine, so because of the thickness of it, it may mask a marginal error, but it's tighter at the front of the wheel than the back. As you would expect with a front wheel drive vehicle, it would more often than not be towing out. Well, I've nipped the track rod nut up now, so many thanks for watching, and why not subscribe to learn of more low cost repair solutions.